LeBron James, Jay-Z, Beyonce, Gloria Estefan. Those are some of the names that appear in an explosive new lawsuit filed by a Florida man against Unveils.
A new Diddy accuser claiming he was sexually assaulted, raped, and humiliated at a freak-off party in Miami, and that other big stars saw him in rough shape.
And then the other people were there in general. It's just this lawsuit technically does sound like an April Fool's joke, but no, it is not. This is a real lawsuit filed by a real attorney.
Upon leaving the event, plaintiff overheard defendant Diddy ask defendant Eric, "You're going to be getting rid of him, right?" To which defendant Eric responded, "Yeah, I'll be taking."
Hold on to your seats, because what we're about to dive into will leave your jaw on the floor. New, shocking allegations are coming to light that could change everything we thought we knew about Sean Diddy Combs. We're talking sex trafficking, abuse, and a star-studded cast of witnesses, including Jay-Z, Beyonce, LeBron James, and Gloria Estefan. And yes, it's all part of a lawsuit so explosive, it's shaking the very foundations of Diddy's empire. Keep watching, because what's coming next, you won't believe it.
Here is where Christina Corum, or KK, comes in. Parham claims at one point Combs held a knife to her and threatened to give her a Glasgow smile. But, quote, defendant KK told defendant Diddy that she did not think giving plaintiff a Glasgow smile would be advantageous to their potential clients who they could sell plaintiff for sex to. Defendant KK then made a threat to plaintiff that they could ship her off anywhere in the world and that she would never see her family or anyone she knew ever again. An accusation, I'm sorry if I had to get graphic here, there's an accusation that Combs had forced Christina Corum to use a syringe to insert an IUD into Parham. And apparently she and Combs argued over it, not over actually doing it, but that it wasn't going to work. And then there's this. When defendant Drewski finished raping plaintiff, defendant KK, Christina Corum, entered the room to examine the condition of plaintiff, who was barely able to move or control her bodily functions. Defendant KK examined plaintiff to see if she needed assistance and was about to give plaintiff an IV fluid. Plaintiff cannot be certain if she did or did not receive such intravenous intervention. Defendant KK then opened a different bag, different than the one defendant Diddy removed the oil from, where plaintiff observed several medicine bottles, IV fluid bags, and other unidentifiable powder-like drugs. Defendant KK then removed a pill from one of the medicine bottles and gave it to defendant Diddy. And there were further allegations in the complaint that she needed to keep the plaintiffs in the case sufficiently drugged, that she carried around and gave out drugs, that she provided plaintiff with an IV, like I mentioned, which, by the way, is important because we know that one of the allegations in Combs' criminal case is that IV fluids would be used after prolonged, allegedly illegal sexual episodes, and that she tried to force one of the plaintiffs, an unidentified woman, to sign documents as well. By the way, in this case, she's being sued for racketeering violations, battery, assault, negligence, intentional and negligent infliction of emotional distress, unjust enrichment, aiding and abetting, sex trafficking, false imprisonment.
All right, let's set the stage. This lawsuit isn't just another one of those wild celebrity rumors. Joseph Manzaro, a Florida man, is filing a real lawsuit that's turning heads across the entertainment world. In the lawsuit, he accuses Diddy of orchestrating a disturbing freak-off party in Miami back in 2015, where he claims to have been drugged, humiliated, and sexually assaulted by Diddy and others. But here's where it gets even wilder. A list celebrities like Jay-Z, Beyonce, LeBron James, and Gloria Estefan are named in the suit, not as defendants, but as witnesses, with some of them reportedly seeing Manzaro in rough shape at the party.
LeBron James, Jay-Z, Beyonce, Gloria Estefan. Those are some of the names that appear in an explosive new lawsuit filed by a Florida man against Sean Combs, claiming he was a victim of sex trafficking and kidnapping at the hands of the music mogul. So why are these celebrities mentioned? What are the allegations? And most importantly, does any of this hold water?
A new Diddy accuser claiming he was sexually assaulted, raped, and humiliated at a freak-off party in Miami, and that other big stars saw him in rough shape. TMZ is all over this story. Branson Quirk joining us live. Now, Branson, let me get this right. This new Diddy accuser is basically claiming he was sexually assaulted at the freak-off party, and he claims that other celebrities were there as well?
Yes, exactly. In this lawsuit, it's important to note that these names are not being sued, but they are named as witnesses inside this lawsuit, those names being Jay-Z, Beyonce, Gloria Estefan, as well as LeBron James. Just to paint you a little bit of a picture of this horrific lawsuit, a man by the name of Joseph Manzano, he claims that he had, in the beginning of this lawsuit, he claims that he woke up in a mansion, this is way back in April of 2015, in a mansion owned by Gloria and Emilio Estefan, and when he woke up not knowing how he got there, he was then led through a tunnel to Diddy's house, and we can confirm that Diddy, his home is nearby to Gloria and Emilio Estefan's home, and once he was through this tunnel, he eventually came across and claimed that LeBron James was walking by in a towel of sorts, saw him in rough shape and said, someone's got to do something about this, and then continuing on through that, they ended up stripping his clothes. They put a demoralizing mask on him, a genitalia mask of sorts on his face to humiliate him. And then he claims that Beyonce and Jay-Z saw him in this mask, prompting Beyonce to then ask, why is there this man in front of me wearing this mask? And then claims that going forward, he doesn't remember too much more. And he said that he was drugged and everything.
Imagine being taken to a private party, drugged, and forced to participate in something so degrading that you're stripped of your dignity, your identity, and everything you stand for. That's what Manzaro claims happened at this so-called freak-off party. He alleges he was paraded around wearing a humiliating mask, subjected to sexual acts, and treated like an object for others' entertainment. And what's even more disturbing, celebrities like Beyonce reportedly saw him, and according to the suit, Beyonce even asked, "Why is this man in front of me wearing a mask?" The entire scene is a nightmare, and it doesn't end there.
There is an explosive new lawsuit that I'm going to break down for you, filed by a man named Joseph Manzaro in Florida. And this is actually in Florida federal court. So he is actually identifying himself in this lawsuit. He's not using a pseudonym. And he claims that he is a survivor of human trafficking and sexual exploitation, and more specifically, as outlined in the complaint, quote, plaintiff was drugged, transported against his will, and sexually maimed as a victim of a coercive and organized criminal enterprise beginning in 2015, orchestrated and facilitated by the defendants. The pattern of threats, concealment, manipulation, and psychological coercion persisted for years, extending the statute of limitations under federal tolling doctrines. Now, here is the kicker, quote, high-profile individuals, including Jacob Arabo, Jay-Z, Gloria Estefan, LeBron James, and Beyonce Knowles Carter are identified as witnesses due to their presence or knowledge of the events surrounding the freak-off orchestrated by defendant Diddy. Wow. And freak-off, of course, is something that we've heard many times before, both in Combs' criminal case and other civil cases, to describe these prolonged sexual episodes, usually with sex workers. But Manzaro is suing Sean Combs. He is suing a man named Eric Mejias. He is suing Brendan Paul, who's been described in another lawsuit as Sean Combs' drug mule, Emilio Estefan, who is married to pop superstar Gloria Estefan. So it reads, quote, on or about April 2015 at approximately 5:30 p.m., very specific time there, plaintiff arrived at his residence located at 424 Valley Forge Road, West Palm Beach, Florida. As plaintiff unlocked his door and turned the handle, he felt a greasy substance resembling Vaseline on his hand. Plaintiff attempted to wash his hands, but lost consciousness before he could do so. Okay, now first off, that is eerily consistent with other accounts that Combs allegedly spiked lubricants of unsuspecting victims. But moving on, he claims that he passes out, he wakes up, and then he's in the backseat of a car. And he claims that this car is driven by Mr. Mejias, and there's another person in there, a Bonnie Rivera. And he claims before passing out once more, he hears Rivera telling Mejias, he's waking up cuz, what should I do? Do you want me to knock him out? To which defendant Mejias allegedly responded, no, don't touch him, don't worry, just give it a minute, he'll fall back asleep again. I gave him a lot of that scopolamine, which is apparently an anti-nausea medication. Now from there, Manzaro claims that he woke up at Mejia's place in Deerfield Beach, which is about 30 miles away, and he claims that is where he was held against his will. He claims he witnessed the man identified as Omar Bravo deliver cocaine and meth to Mejias, and Brendan Paul was there, quote, appearing nervous and sat with a motorcycle helmet in his lap. Again, very specific details. And he claims the drugs were placed in Paul's backpack, who then remarked how Combs wanted Manzaro brought to a freak-off event. Now, this is where all the celebrities come in. So Manzaro claims that he was taken to One Star Island Drive in Miami, Florida, and that Mejias informed security there that they were attending an event at the Estefan Mansion and mentioned it was Christian's birthday party that night. Now, in this complaint, it's not clarified, as far as I can tell, who Christian is, but it seems to be, possibly, this was Christian Combs, Combs' son.
Now, here's where the scandal deepens. Manzaro claims that some of the biggest names in entertainment were not only present, but aware of what was happening. LeBron James, reportedly walking through the scene in a towel, allegedly saw Manzaro in a state of distress and said, "YLLL better do something about that," Gloria Estefan, upon seeing his condition. Even reportedly begged for an ambulance, but according to Manzaro, Al Melo Estefan, Gloria's husband allegedly silenced her and sent everyone back to the party. What does this mean? Was it that the whole event was one big, sick performance where the elite turned a blind eye to what was happening right in front of them?
This is part of his punishment.
Now, Manzaro claims that the security logs at the entrance of Star Island would reflect this entry, so something that he hopes to get during the course of discovery. Now, from there, the complaint reads, plaintiff was dragged through the back entrance of the Estefan Mansion at approximately 12:30 a.m. Not sure how he knows that time if he was in this drugged state, but he continues, inside, Gloria Estefan panicked upon seeing plaintiff's deteriorating state, demanding, "Call an ambulance." However, defendant Emilio quickly silenced her and ushered her away into the crowd. At that moment, plaintiff briefly saw LeBron James, who was wearing a white bath towel, brown shower shoes, and carrying a shaving bag, walking through the hallway. LeBron James looked at plaintiff and, in response to Gloria Estefan's plan for an ambulance, remarked, "Y'all better do something about that." Quote, plaintiff was then led by defendant Adria, who identified herself as Diddy's personal sexual assistant, and through a concealed tunnel that connected the Estefan mansion to defendant Diddy's mansion, plaintiff was secretly transferred to defendant's Diddy mansion. So that's going to become a question if in fact their mansions are close enough for this to even happen, and whether there is evidence of this underground tunnel or this tunnel of some sort. Quote, upon regaining partial consciousness, the plaintiff found himself inside a large party area upon information and belief that it was Diddy's son's birthday party. Jay-Z and Beyonce Knowles Carter were seated in the room, and upon seeing plaintiff, Beyonce Knowles Carter asked, "What's this? What's this all about? Why is this half-naked white man with a blank mask standing here in front of me?"
So what was Diddy's role in all of this? According to Manzaro, Diddy not only allowed but orchestrated the entire freak-off party. He allegedly made the sickening decision to strip Manzaro down, humiliate him, and force him to engage in these disturbing acts. And it doesn't stop there. Manzaro claims that Diddy made it clear that this was some sort of punishment for what Diddy allegedly called a snitch, a punishment involving more than just degradation, but also manipulation, control, and fear. Is this the real Diddy behind the persona, or is it just another part of a carefully constructed illusion?
Defendant Eric responded, "Diddy wants him to see what we do to snitches. This is part of his punishment." Plaintiff was forcefully paraded through multiple rooms filled with people who were jeering and taunting him. Defendant Diddy explicitly ordered plaintiff's degradation, stating, "He's going to find out what we do to snitches tonight. Get him undressed." So from there, Manzaro claims he was stripped, put in a shower, forcibly washed by two women while Mejias and Rivera watched, and then was outfitted in a thong, a black leather mask with a lock over his mouth, and then, quote, subjected to degrading and non-consensual acts at the direction of defendants Diddy and Adria. Plaintiff was sexually assaulted and forced to partake in unwanted sexual activity. And then he claims he passed out. Now, from there, he claims he woke up, found himself locked in a dark side room. Adria English and Mejias come in. They dress him, take him off the property, and then enters Jacob Arabo, also known as Jacob the Jeweler. You probably know who he is. Quote, while still semi-conscious, plaintiff encountered Jacob Arabo, who was visibly disturbed upon seeing plaintiff in his forced attire. He asked, "What's this? What's going on with this guy? Why is he standing here staring at me with a penis strapped to his face?" Defendant Eric responded, "Oh, he's just some guy who's a snitch. We're teaching him a little lesson." Defendant Emilio intervened, instructing Defendant Eric and Bonnie Rivera to move the plaintiff out of Jacob Arabo's sight. Gloria Estefan again pleaded for an ambulance to be called, but Defendant Emilio silenced her and shoved her into the crowd.
And if that wasn't enough, the details surrounding the drugs and the intimidation are chilling. According to Manzaro's claims, he was drugged with scopolamine, an anti-nausea medication often linked to its use in coercion and mind control. After the alleged assault, he was kept in a semi-conscious state, further humiliated and drugged to suppress any attempts at escaping. But here's the kicker. It's not just the physical assault that's shocking. Manzaro claims there was an entire cover-up. With threats of violence and attempts to keep him silent through intimidation, the plot thickens. Was this a one-time thing, or is this part of a much bigger operation?
And then the other people were there in general. It's just this lawsuit technically does sound like an April Fool's joke, but no, it is not. This is a real lawsuit filed by a real attorney, and this man claims that this did all happen.
Yeah, well, worth mentioning, Diddy is innocent until proven guilty. There's no proof that these celebrities were even at this party, and anyone can make up a false allegation against a celebrity or someone in the public eye to try and take them down, right?
No, you're absolutely right. And honestly, too, we did a little bit more research. And April 1st, LeBron James, he was in town playing in Miami the next day. So people are also pointing to that as a fact that he may have been there the night before. But there's just so many details here that when you look at this entire thing, it almost looks kind of like a screenplay was written throughout, comparing to the other lawsuits here, because it's so similar to the other lawsuits.
With Diddy facing not only this explosive lawsuit, but also federal charges for racketeering, sex trafficking, and witness tampering, the stakes have never been higher. His reputation is in tatters. But there are some serious questions that need to be answered. How much of this is true? Are these accusations part of a larger conspiracy to take down one of the most powerful figures in music and entertainment? And what about the celebrities named in this case? Were they passive bystanders? Or is there something more to their involvement that we don't know yet?
Upon leaving the event, plaintiff overheard defendant Diddy ask defendant Eric, "You're going to be getting rid of him, right?" To which defendant Eric responded, "Yeah, I'll be taking care of that." Following this described freak-off event, Manzaro claims he was taken back to that house where he claims he was originally kept. He was savagely beaten and then left for dead inside of his own apartment. When a gang member later inquired about how plaintiff was kept unconscious, defendant Eric responded, "Xylazine, trank." Now, again, I have to say, I struggle with the question of how he knew that this was allegedly said. Did he overhear it? Okay, that's a possibility, but could he, through these alleged beatings and druggings? That's going to be, I imagine, a difficulty for him in pursuing this case. Now, Manzaro claims as a result of all of this, he suffered physical injuries, internal trauma, groin damage, sexual maiming, hernias, and he claims he can prove this through documented evaluations from a urologist and a surgeon. But then Manzaro alleges that Eric Mejias would continue to harass and intimidate him in the years following this attack, including issuing death threats and threats to kidnap Manzaro's son. And Manzaro believes that this was all to keep him quiet. And he even claims that surveillance footage and police reports confirm attempts by Mejias to approach Manzaro's property. Additionally, a hitman named Sigfredo Garcia, who's now serving a life sentence in an unrelated murder, was in plaintiff's alleyway. A police report was filed corroborating this encounter, seen as an associate of defendant Eric was captured on security cameras outside plaintiff's residence, further evidence of a coordinated campaign of intimidation. Do you all remember who Sigfredo Garcia is? He was the man convicted and sentenced to life in prison for the 2014 assassination of FSU law professor Dan Markel, a case that has its own twists and turns and that had several trials we covered on the Law and Crime Trial Network. So here's a question for you, okay? Why wait all these years to file a lawsuit, right? That becomes a big question in all of the lawsuits that Sean Combs faces, because his argument would be, this is all a money grab. This is people coming out of the woodwork, they're jumping on the bandwagon, okay. Quote, defendant Adria actively obstructed plaintiff's ability to seek justice by tampering with evidence, interfering with legal proceedings, and conspiring to conceal the crimes committed against plaintiff. Defendant's acts of coercion, obstruction, threat, and ongoing intimidation persisted until at least 2021, demonstrating a clear pattern of misconduct that effectively told the applicable statutes of limitation under federal and state law, meaning the claims aren't time barred anymore because he couldn't bring these claims earlier. Quote, plaintiff has now compiled the necessary evidentiary foundation to proceed with this legal action, including verified medical records, sworn witness statements, and corroborating documentation directly implicating the defendants in his abduction, drugging, sexual exploitation, and abuse.
Right now, we're waiting for the trial to start. Diddy's legal team has fired back, calling these allegations a desperate grab for headlines. But can a lawsuit this detailed really be dismissed so easily? With the federal trial looming and more accusers potentially stepping forward, Diddy's empire is facing the ultimate test. Will this be the end of his reign? Will these shocking revelations destroy everything he's built, or is there a darker truth behind this scandal waiting to be uncovered?
Absolutely. If a person knowingly releases to the public a sex tape, like a pornographic nature involving a minor, that is absolutely a criminal offense in federal court and in state court. So I would say that anybody who does that could absolutely be charged with a criminal offense.
But any of these tapes that eventually perhaps may make it out into the public eye, is that a slam dunk, even if it's not in the public eye? Is it a slam dunk, the fact that they're even there for the prosecution?
It's definitely very compelling evidence. Anytime you have videotaped evidence, it's very compelling to a jury, and it's very helpful to the prosecution. In my opinion, the federal government, a lot of people don't realize this, but they have like over a 90% conviction rate on any case that they charge. So certainly anything that can up that odds to more than mid 90%. Is very damaging to the defense.
So I heard on the racketeering charge alone, racketeering is hard to prove, but if you have a case and you've charged them with it, the chances of conviction are pretty high.
Like I said, even the federal government on their own website touts a more than 90% conviction rate. So that, in conjunction with the second count, which involves the sex with a I'm sorry, remind me, count two was, there's count one is racketeering, count two involves sex trafficking.
Exactly.
Which carries a life in prison penalty. With those charges alone, I would say, especially as more victims surface, if there's minor victims, this is
The entertainment world has always been a place of spectacle, fame, and excess. But with the latest lawsuit against Diddy, we're seeing the true cost of power and manipulation. This story is far from over. And as the trial approaches, the real questions are just beginning to surface. What do you think? Is Diddy guilty of these horrific accusations, or is this just a smear campaign? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on the shocking updates coming your way.
Very good for the prosecution.
I like to see people get, they just do. Like, if he was innocent, I'd be speaking up, like, leave that man alone, because I hate bullies. But if I don't feel like he's guilty, I just feel like, bro, it's there. Like, all them people ain't lying, and then you know when a person lie because you know when a person lying, they ain't going into detail. Like, it's certain things, and people always trying to blame Cassie. Like, no, bro, like, you ain't never been around a billionaire before, so you can't be around that. You don't know how to judge that situation when somebody, like, it's kind of like the dude, you ever seen the commercial? They hold a daughter, and you're like, you gotta be quicker than that. They gonna keep dangling the money in your face. You gonna kiss like the carrot in front of the rabbit. You see the food, you're gonna keep chasing it, and eventually you're gonna feel like, why would I quit and I done got to the 12th grade? Like, who gets to the 12th grade and quit school? So if you go through so many levels of embarrassment, whatever you wanna call it, and then you get to where you feel like, I surpassed a lot of stuff, I done did the worst of the worst, you go to feeling like, okay, I wanna be compensated. But as far as his crib, man, I just feel like, man, they deserve it, you know what I'm saying? You see he quiet, you gotta look at the surroundings, like people like, why his friends ain't talking, why, woo. First of all, everybody know. This we've been talking about this since I was a kid, everybody know, you know what I'm saying? Ain't no sitting around to be acting like it's brand new right now, that irritates me. I was enjoying it because just my type of party, man. Just stay to yourself, mind your business. I'm not even looking at you, nasty bitch. Like, I'm just like, I know y'all not looking at me. You get what I'm saying? At that time, man, you just happy to smoke weed, man, in privacy, man. We was just happy to get away from everybody and get our weed in the air. Like, when I hear stuff about Puffy right now, I'm like, yo, how far this nigga done came? Because if anybody can remember, it was an episode where he put us off his bus for smoking cigarettes. Now I hear the nigga smoke cigarettes, he do drugs, he do this and that. Like, what? This nigga was disciplined. This nigga hated cigarette smoke. He couldn't read. Like, people didn't know that. Like, he had a dyslexia. He couldn't read. The nigga was like, he couldn't read. Like, his reading was slow. Yeah, he had to learn how to read. Like, when we was there, he was like, they was like a secret, but he couldn't read. Puffy couldn't read. Like, I'm not lying. Like, he couldn't read. Like, well. And you can still see it with his acting and stuff like that. That's probably why he won't get a lot of gigs that got teleprompters and stuff like that. But I be listening to him now, and I'm like, yo, he done got better. Like, you know what I'm saying? He done got better now with his speech, education, everything, but he just couldn't read like that. Like, that's what they told me, and I hear the nigga read and some shit, he be stuttering and shit. I'm like, oh, maybe it's true.